Joined by our News Channel 5 legal analyst, Michelle Suskauer. Thank you. First, a 9-3 vote. That's allowed in the state of Florida. Explain that. And then a recommendation, but it would be highly unusual for a judge to go against this recommendation. Flesh that up for us.
Sure. In Florida, Florida is just one of a small handful of states that still just permit majority verdicts for death penalty recommendations. And that may change in the future, but right now, 9-3, that's perfectly permissible. But it's just a recommendation. Some states, juries, actually, they're the sentencing body. But this is up to the judge. So the jury's going to make this recommendation of death, as opposed to life in prison without parole, and the judge is going to be weighing this and making his decision. But chances are, with these facts, with these aggravating factors of the fact it's a police officer victim, convicted felon, the manner in which it happened, chances are I think the judge is going to go with this recommendation next week.
I was trying to recall a case like this that I've covered over the years where the judge did not abide by the jury recommendation. I couldn't recall one given these kind of circumstances where that's been the case. It would seem almost certain that the recommendation would be followed, but again, up to the judge in this case.
Absolutely.
From the defense point of view, what kind of mitigating factors do they have left to try and put into the record before the judge will make such a decision?
Well, you know, they've made their record, and by the way, just so that the audience knows, there's automatic appeals when there is a recommendation in order to, and so this is not going to happen tomorrow. This is going to go on for years in terms of the appeals that are statutorily mandated.
The numbers vary, but the time on death row, if ultimately the judge abides by the jury recommendation as expected, but again, that's up to the judge, but typically can be 14 to 20 years. A lot of appeals process will be ahead for heiress Tisdale.
There's no question, but recently in the last several years, that process is actually has been shortened significantly. But again, we're still not talking about 1 to 5 years, maybe 10 years down the road, really, before we see this actually carried out, if it actually is.
The recommendation by the jury, of course, lethal injection, the electrocution done away with in the state of Florida. This would be by lethal injection someday. The decision, it's a monumental decision for any jury. They came to that recommendation in under 3 hours.
You know, that's, and some people say, well, maybe that took too long. No, I mean, this is a very, very heavy decision, and certainly you would think that if they came to that decision quickly, meaning they had a majority, they would have come back sooner. So they may not have had a majority right in the beginning. We don't know. We may never know what went on in that jury room. The jurors do not have to talk. They do not have to disclose how they came about to their decision.
Final thoughts from a legal perspective?
You know, these are all tough cases, and in this atmosphere right now, with really the focus on officer shootings, and now we have officers that are being killed, it's just the spotlight again on Florida as a result of this. So very tough.
News Channel 5 legal analyst Michelle Suskauer, as always, thank you for being with us and offering us your perspective. And please stay with News Channel 5 for continuing coverage of the heiress Tisdale case on WPTV.com. Today's jury recommendation and the history of this case from the time when Gary Morales was shot and killed in February of 2013. You can find that timeline there. Ashley?